Hello. Good evening, everybody. Sorry to be a couple of minutes late. It was a crazy dash from my office to home when it became apparent that the internet was not working. So here I am, and here you are at a little past 5 on Midwife Monday. So no tea for me today. No time for that, sadly, just some water. And yeah, hopefully a great evening or hour or so. I'd love to hear from you in the chat box. As always, it really makes it fun and interesting to have some feedback. And if you follow our YouTube channel, it makes it even more fun to have tons of people here. So if you're new to Midwife Monday, welcome. We always take a couple of breaths, at least that has become my habit at least. And I could really use them right now since I just, had a very quick entry into this. So let's take a couple of breaths together. We'll do 3. Sweet. Feeling more grounded? Get your feet on the floor. Can't quite get mine on the floor on this chair. Settle in, get your tea or whatever you would like to drink during this live chat. I thought I would start this evening by reading just a really short section as people kind of get on from our book. If you have not seen it or read it, it is on Amazon and it is also in many of our courses. So you may have heard this already, but I'm only going to read a tiny bit anyhow. So let's see. Let's see what little part I can read. Cool. Well, I turned to a section that I wrote versus Margot called Responsibility. So while you're getting settled, enjoy a short passage from Indie Birth, A Story of Radical Birth Love. In this culture, we are taught from a very young age that everything we are, everything we want or don't want, is outside of ourselves. It's amazing how many birth lessons are really life lessons. Pregnancy and birth are no different. We believe that we are not in control and that essentially it's all an external job. That could not be farther from the truth. Everything in birth, everything in life is an internal job. Because of that fact, we are the only ones who are truly responsible for ourselves, another unpopular belief. When it comes to birth, this is twofold. 1, women don't want to accept the responsibility. 2, they are willing to tell others that they have then put the false responsibility on. Learning to take responsibility is not a popular activity because a lot is required of us. There is a lot done on the surface to try to transfer this responsibility. We even use licensing and regulation as part of this ploy. The approved person knows more and takes on his or her shoulders the outcome of your birth. Some people say they support licensing because otherwise it's not clear who this person is. What happened to accepting responsibility for choosing and then accepting your choice? It's really crazy when you say it out loud. So, thank you, Olivia. Short passage in our book. That was on responsibility, and I only read this much. There's quite a bit more, as you can imagine, since that's one of our favorite topics, is just talking about how we can all be more responsible in our lives. And there's no time like the present for that, you know? No time like the present with the crazy stuff going on for people to really realize who's in charge of them. Along those lines, I have a new podcast for those who are unaware, and that was done last Friday. And it's on this concept of a private membership association for setting up your midwifery or your doula business or, whatever you do, perhaps acupuncture, massage. Just met with a really awesome, cool pelvic floor specialist here. So anybody that works with people, this might be your thing, but it doesn't really release you from accepting full responsibility for whatever it is, that you believe in, whatever it is that you're doing. It's just, I think, what we need to do. So another official welcome to Midwife Monday if you're just joining us. And I was thinking today about how Monday is sort of stereotypically, more in mainstream culture, I think. It feels like the beginning of the week, right? Even though it's not. And I don't know that it feels like that to me, but because I do all of my birthy stuff on Monday, I do feel, like it's a set point for my week. And so I was reflecting on just what my intention is when I'm, looking forward to a Monday that's busy and full of exciting birthy things. Like, what is my intention? So offering that up to you all this evening, if you want to accept, just thinking about your week ahead or, what's coming up for you and how you want to feel during this next little bit called a week. What is your intention? What magic, and I love magic. It's one of my favorite words right now and sort of always. But what magic can you add to your Monday to give focus for, the rest of the days of this week? So I was reflecting on some of the words I like the best. And right now for this week, calm kind of came up for me. And it's funny that, totally wasn't calm. Getting from my office to here tonight was like the opposite of calm. Panicking, looking at my watch, wanting to be right on time at 5 o'clock, and the internet just not working at all. I should have given myself a little bit more time to figure that out. But, I was just thinking it would work like it always does, and it didn't. So calm. I set that intention, and then I was kind of challenged in a way to remain calm, right? It's not a big deal. It's Midwife Monday. Midwives are late everywhere. What does it matter? People will still come. It'll still be fun. So talking ourselves down and just coming back to that intention, coming back to feeling calm in my body and using that when things come up that challenge, our mental and emotional ability to just like stay focused, stay present. And also using the intentional word as a way to direct possibly some of your week, right? So I don't know what your words are, but you're welcome to share them. I'd love to hear them here if you have one. An intentional word for the week. I don't know. Could mean anything to you. Could be for any specific reason. And my word being calm, again, spurred me to resume meditating today. So that's my confession. I have not been meditating very well since Rumi was born. And, I think that's understandable. So I'm not beating myself up over that at all. But today was the day. Today was the day. And this is the week where if calm is my word, then I've got to think about how my life is, how I think things are going and what I can possibly reorder or restructure or think more intentionally about. So with calm this morning, it was just 10 minutes, Don't aim for anything crazy is my advice. When you're starting a new habit, just deliberate attention to what your goal is. So for me, calm was just 10 minutes, sitting alone in my room, put the timer on, breathe, no music, no guided meditation, nothing, just my brain, doing all of its crazy things. you ever meditated or stopped meditating and then meditate again, it's crazy how, the brain just does the same thing that it's always done and that it will always do. So calm is my word for the week. Yeah. Surrender and order. I love those too. Yeah, that's been my habit. Again, not like I absolutely have to do it sort of habit, but I like to have words for the month. I like to have like kind of a feeling for what I'm going for, maybe based on projects. So one thing I'm thinking ahead about probably for March is my office being not just renovated because it was kind of renovated last month, but I'm going to redecorate it. And so, thinking about what kind of words I want it to feel like and the women coming in there, how I want them to feel. So, taking projects like that can be helpful, excuse me, but also just the weekly thing has been helpful. So I get out my little planner. I love Danielle Laporte's Desire Map, which is where a lot of this comes from. And yeah, just Sunday night, sitting alone here for a couple minutes and feeling into what the word of the week is. What do you need? I think Margot asked that question yesterday on one of our platforms. So you can tell we definitely overlap. She and I, lots of similarities and similar conversation probably. But yeah, flow is a great word. Flow, surrender, same idea. So that's awesome. The question is, and you don't have to answer it, of course, but the question is, so what will unfold from that? What intentionally might unfold from setting that as your word? How can you flow more, or what needs to be flowed with, or however you want to say it. So I don't know. That might be a nice practice to get into together here on Midwife Mondays. We can call it Magic Monday, Magic Midwife Monday. And we can share our words and just set that intention. So important. So important. And self-responsibility. If you missed the book reading, self-responsibility is taking ownership of the fact that we can create that. We don't control every little thing that comes into our life or might happen, but we can control our reactions. So the intention is largely just your reaction, your response to life this week. So thanks for sharing yours. All right. Themes for the day. Questions are always welcome, as you might know. Sometimes you feel like you're just talking into the black hole of YouTube without some thoughts to help you along. But there's always more reading, I guess, if it comes to that. So thoughts for today. It wasn't as busy a day. I am enjoying the rest right now, to be honest, with birth work. I'm doing stuff, but I'm definitely in, kind of like a peaks and valleys as far as being busy. I'm kind of enjoying the little valley of a more continued postpartum experience, perhaps. Rumi is 3 months old, so we're just out of the 4th trimester. But I'm not all like ready to go yet, and I think the universe totally knows that, and I have put that out pretty clearly. So I'm easing my way back in. A couple of things today, and some days will be busier, we'll see. And that's feeling really good because getting him out of bed for births yet. So we are not until this summer. So we are meeting in this manner with a couple of pregnant women that we're working with and some postpartum mamas. That's always fun. And people around the community. I have time to do that, which is really nice. Today we had a really awesome physical therapist who's also a mom come and just meet us. And I had met her before, totally, around town and in the community. But I didn't know she did this work. So, there you have it. You think people around your community, even if you've been there for a while, then you will be surprised. So it's really nice to have that relaxed flow, in my birth work right now, to meet with more people and do that kind of stuff. Hear some birth stories, and get the community together in a different kind of way than when, I don't have time for much else than meeting with these wonderful pregnant women and attending births. That takes up a lot of time. I was just saying that to this physical therapist. I don't have a lot of time for nonsense, so I like really quality interactions and meetings and a common goal. So it was really nice to sit with another woman who's doing women's work and is curious about it and interested in it and wanting to serve pregnant women. Totally worth the time. So I don't think that really has a theme, but that's been part of the day. Community, really is a theme, I think, that I'm constantly thinking about, even if I'm not, attending births this month or next month. The community aspect remains super important, because without a strong community that values birth, that values the work that midwives do, we wouldn't have anything to do, So when people are like, oh, thank you for, doing this work and being here, I'm super honored. But it's also like, thank you for seeing that this work is cool and important, and that you want to join in, because that's community. That's community where we support each other, and pregnant women are supported in all kinds of ways. I am not a practitioner of other things, really. So I value the pelvic floor experts and the chiropractors and all of the energy work and the acupuncturists. We can all work together to serve pregnant women and help them be as healthy and happy as possible. So that's definitely kind of a goal for the next couple of months, to see where those places can be stronger. And, it's not impossible right now. I think a lot of people live in places where it feels like that with what's going on. People don't want to come together, and how would you do that? And I just feel like I'm blessed because, I don't work in the medical field. I'm not working with sick people, and I'm not under restrictions to do things a certain way. So I feel really lucky that the community that shows up is one that is resonant with the work I'm doing, and we can work together. So we're doing that, and starting some new circles here, which is really fun. We've had a pregnant mama circle for a while with the clients that we work with, but we're going to open that up to, just the community. Certainly there's tons more pregnant women than we know about. And we'd like for there to be a space for them to come and hang out and learn with us if they want to. Sorry, I'm like on the verge of a sneeze. And just a mama circle. Ashley, my lovely friend and apprentice, hosted a mama circle last night. And I opted out just because I needed to focus on me. But yeah, moms and babies and hanging out and getting to sit with them and sit face to face, and everybody's looking at everyone's baby and how cute they are and how they're growing. So these are all, I think, very valuable community tools of the community midwife. I don't think these things are separate, and I really appreciate the help, like Ashley doing the circle last night, so we can kind of split the responsibility, because community is just not a one-person job. It can't be. And I wouldn't even be the person for it. I really like that we can all share in that kind of thing. Your word for the week is support. Yeah. Yeah, so supporting others and having the intention behind whatever word you choose to be as self-supportive as well, right? So Sometimes we kind of flip it and it's like externally, I want this. And people need us externally, right? Husbands, kids, clients. But then internally, what's our intention for our own, like in the center of ourselves, to be able to give that support. So I don't know. I don't know what that word is for you. A special postpartum drink. And Danielle, I will get back to your question. I'm gonna skip ahead to Hillary's just because it's simpler for a sec. Special postpartum drink that you offer. Yeah, postpartum. What a cool topic. And I'm so recently, out of that stage. So, Andrea, yes, I saw your question. I will talk about that. Special postpartum drink. Gosh, there's so many. I really enjoyed making things out of a cookbook this time. And I always space on the names of things when I'm like talking, even on podcasts. What the heck is her name? Well, her website, the author's website, I know is called Shakti Care. Shakti Care. I could put it in the box. I used her postpartum cookbook, and I really liked it. And she had some new drinks I hadn't tried in there. Really simple, just like fennel tea. Make a really strong fennel tea, add some maple syrup. I don't know why that tastes so delicious when you've just had baby, but it does. So that's a really simple one. And I might start sort of like carrying those things around or offering them more. It's definitely simple. Some are more complicated. Margot and I, for a while, and Margot might still be doing this, we were making like a hot chocolate drink for postpartum people and making it right after the baby. And then I can think of one postpartum client who loved it. And we made it for her like every time we went over there in the first couple of days and into the coming weeks. And that's a really easy one if you want to make a hot chocolate for them clients. They usually love it. So just milk of choice, raw cow's milk is fun. Some people do nut milks, coconut milk, and just make a really good hot chocolate. Chocolate powder, some kind of sweetener that they like, a little bit of salt, collagen if they're into that, all the good spices, and you can kind of make like a Mexican hot chocolate if you want, a little cayenne, nothing too spicy probably for nursing mom, but vanilla, you could put almond butter in there. The one mom that really loved it, we put oats in hers because I love to blend it. So you get it all mixed up, you get it hot, and then you blend it, and it's really yummy and like super thick. Cornmeal is another idea. I think we used oats because she didn't have cornmeal. So just good flavor, Yeah, golden milk is awesome too, and that's another favorite. So anything hot with calories and some sweetness seems to work. And hello, Lauren. You're not really late. I was kind of late too. Okay, well, I want to talk about Andrea's question a little because she asked it up above. And yeah, life and work balance, I think, is a continuing conversation. I don't know that I have a recipe. I do have a couple of podcasts, as you probably know, on just mothering and doing midwifery. And yes, it's true that some of those have a more specific focus of bringing a baby to birth. So if you don't have babies, you're still wondering about balance. Honestly, I think the simplest answer I could give right now that isn't, a 50-minute podcast is taking care of yourself. I really, truly do, right? Olivia and I, hi Olivia, we were chatting this morning and, we were reminding each other that it's not selfish. It's seen as selfish to like put your emotional needs first in your life, like be before anyone, because that's what we're taught, especially as women, that someone always is more important than us. But if we really, really seriously consider that until, I mean, we don't struggle with things, but sorry, I don't know where it cut me off. The internet at home. Yeah, I was babbling on about not being selfish and how we're taught as women that that's the way to be. You have to put your kids first, and, other people have needs. You can't just be this self centered person. But I think truly we're talking about a different kind of self accountability and self responsibility. And I think to me, that's not just on a physical realm, that's like on the spiritual realm, that's on the emotional realm. So, my strategist for staying grounded in life, and that includes kids, that includes clients, that includes house, that includes, all the things, is just to take really great care of myself. And that's so different for all of us. I think there's definitely really great conversations that are happening more often about physical self care. And that's a great step, and sometimes that's the first step to just realize I'm in a body, I have to take care of it. And I need to do that because no one's going to do that, right? The things we talk about with pregnant women. But then there are, increasingly deeper layers to taking care. So I don't know. That's my answer, is taking great care of myself and recognizing what I'm feeling and how that changes through the day or the week, how you get triggered into things sometimes, or, you're not feeling so great about this or that, or this isn't going your way. I mean, those are all like the common human things we all deal with. So taking a step back and saying, okay, I can choose to feel differently. And what do I need from this experience? What do I need to learn? And why is this feeling hard? Why is this feeling hard for me? I think that's, for me, more the conversation. That might not be what anyone else really wants to hear or wants to talk about, but that for me is the balance, is me taking care of me and knowing that that is my number one goal, so that I can take care of anyone else, because you really just don't have the resources. You don't have the energy, you don't have the stamina to keep up with that. It's a lot. It's a lot. And then, of course, recognizing and having people around you, I think, for support and being able to process when things happen, with clients or just situations. I mean, people are intense, right? And that's been, to be honest, a nice break lately from a lot of client care in that way, Andrea. So of course I totally get it. It takes so much. It takes so much. And for me, the honest lesson that I'm still working on is to not accept too much, not too much, maybe not any responsibility for someone's experience past what I can reasonably offer, past what my role is as their midwife. I find myself, and I think a lot of midwives do, just wanting to help people more than maybe we reasonably can. So I'm still learning that, but I notice I get super drained when I'm trying to sort of help someone more than they can be helped, or, I don't really know what they need. It's just that holding of space and doing all the things we know to do and not do so that people can figure it out. And then we don't feel drained. So still working on it. But that gives me more energy for being in my life, doing the things I want to do, being with my kids and having energy for all that. Because, yeah, it is totally a balance. That's the absolute truth. Let's see, Danielle, I'm going to read yours. Would you be able to talk about postpartum hemorrhage? I recently gave birth and had a hemorrhage with a small amount of retained placenta. The midwife and subsequent OB feel it was an accreta and have advised a cesarean section with a hysterectomy at that time. Okay, well, you are 2 weeks postpartum, so I totally feel you. It's, yeah, hard to be that close to birth still and maybe have had something occur that feels really big and confusing. And yeah, it takes time. And something like postpartum hemorrhage can definitely be so scary and really traumatize people. I mean, I feel like I meet people all the time, fortunately, virtually and in real life, who've had a postpartum hemorrhage. And yeah, they're traumatized. Their partners are usually traumatized. So, I mean, I'd love to talk with you personally, Danielle, when you're ready. So, no rush on that, but just because I think I could pay better attention to your unique situation, because I'm sure it is. And I'm sure, and I know there would be a million questions I would have for you. So, totally, we could do that sometime when you're feeling up to it and more healed. But postpartum hemorrhage in general is kind of a passionate topic for me. So, maybe you knew that. And for those that don't know, we definitely already have some resources if you're starting off fresh with us and or this topic. So there's a podcast called, oh dear, I always forget, the Postpartum Hemorrhage Deception or something like that. And I have another podcast more recently called Why I Love Placenta Birth. And both of those two free podcasts kind of tie into one of our paid classes called How to Manifest an Undisturbed Third Stage, which is birth of the placenta. So I think all those things kind of make a pretty good puzzle for someone that's looking to get more clues. And when people come with postpartum hemorrhage specifically as a topic, although there's definitely like other birth scenarios that people come with that feel this way, which is you have to eventually put the pieces together, which is where, sometimes someone like me or Margot can be helpful. You have to put the pieces together. And it's not just the birth, unfortunately. Maybe it's not unfortunate, but it just, it's broader than that. It's broader than that when someone has a hemorrhage. There's so many questions to ask, from really just logistical stuff to the way their labor went or certain interventions to prenatal nutrition to, and this might sound out there to some people, all kinds of emotional things that are unique to women and can be brought up in that way. So I don't have a set answer on any of it. Case reviews are really fascinating, though. And my experience has been, as someone that was told they hemorrhaged, I was told that with my second birth, which was my first home birth, as someone that had been told that, and as someone that's worked with a lot of women that were also told, you hemorrhaged, I would say, generally speaking, it very rarely repeats itself once someone has put together the pieces the best they can and learned what they needed to learn from it, dug as deep as they wanted to. Usually they do their own healing. They do their own, self-healing, really, of the situation. And I worked with a woman just this past year who was having her second baby with us. In fact, her baby is just a month older than Rooney, so one of the last births I attended. And with her first birth, she had a massive hemorrhage at home. Wasn't there. I wasn't part of that story at all, so I had to ask a lot of questions. And she had to ask a lot of questions, of herself and of her birth process and of her whole life, really, like it came down to a lot of very personal issues for her to look at. And so she did that work. I was happy to support her, but she did that work for the whole pregnancy. And she had a beautiful birth and didn't bleed a drop. It was very rewarding to be a part of her story and to see how triumphant she was and how amazed she was that her body could behave, sort of so differently in two situations and how much goes into that. So I wish it were simpler, but I don't know that people here on this chat wish things were, because I think doctors and certainly the medical world, they have such a limited view of these topics, and they're filled with fear, and they're usually more numbers based and sort of threat based, as you've alluded to, Danielle. They're already telling you what you need to do and how it's going to be for you next time, and what happened. So I would say happy postpartum. Take some deep breaths and feel what you're feeling. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. And as you get through your postpartum time a little bit, then you might be ready to, look at it more objectively. I think it's hard for sure when things are so new. And think back on some of the history and ask questions and possibly talk to someone. Yeah, no problem. One of my favorite things to do virtually actually is to hear birth stories that would like an ear, not just for the pure retelling of birth stories, because we all know they're great, mostly great, but for this reason, Danielle, people that have questions or just are trying to understand or put pieces together. And it's not to say I had the answer. I'm not trying to give that impression. I don't come up with some grand thing I spit back at you like, this is what happened, this is what you need. It's more just, I think, the listening, the asking of good questions, and usually someone going away with some things to investigate and look into that feel powerful to them. And I think that's actually the key, Danielle, or anyone with stories, our own birth stories that feel traumatizing and hard, is to eventually find our way back to power. And it doesn't mean it wasn't hard too in some of my births. Definitely, there's been things that have come up that have required that. And it's always felt really good to be eventually on that other side. But it takes time, and it's hard sometimes to work through. So I'm sending you love. And yes, we could talk about it. Yeah. Hi, Honesty. Yeah, I love that you're coming with your words. We can just do whatever with this conversation, as you all know. Strength is one of mine, too. In fact, I was using those beautiful cards you gave me. I've been using them. They're really some of my favorite. And that was one of the cards I pulled yesterday, was strength. And it's such a simple word, and maybe it's kind of overused, but it's like when you really tune into it, and those cards are so beautiful, I kind of forget what the image is, honestly. I think it's like the infinity sign. I don't know. I'll have to do some cards here someday. I feel like I'm stealing Margot's idea, but I'm not really, because they're different cards. So we'll do that maybe next week. But yeah, strength is one of those words that has such a deeper meaning and can be just purely physical and can be all the things. It can be an emotional strength, and finding where strength ebbs and flows, doesn't always have to be, can be flexible strength. All right. Well, somehow the hour always flies by. I know I started a little bit late, but I'm also very determined to end on time, because I don't like things don't end on time. It feels disrespectful to me of people's time, so I will be ending on time regardless of my late start. I'm just seeing if there were any more questions. Yeah, totally. So I don't know. What else? What else? What else? What else? I don't really like to have a list for this chat. It's just too regimented. I don't know. I don't know. I'm starting a new podcast series, with my good friend Nathan, who many of you know through one way or another, through his hilarious, at times, podcast called the OB Gyno Wino. And I hope we get the first episode recorded soonish. We're both really busy, but I think we can make that happen in March. And I'm going to be super excited to have that be a new project. I met Nathan, I don't know, a couple of years ago now. And I met him through his podcast. So if you haven't heard that, you should go check it out. It's pretty clinical, but that's great, So when especially students in the school are like, hey, is there anything on herpes? It's like, Nathan probably has a podcast episode on the clinical management of the topic. So anything clinical you're looking for birth-wise, I would totally check it out. And he's just funny and he's great. So yeah, when I met him years ago, I really just wanted to say hi, and I thought he was cool enough to teach for our school, which he is, of course, and he has. And I didn't really have any expectations past that. I didn't really know too much about him. But it turns out he's very cool and very aligned. And this podcast will be really fun because it'll be us talking about birth stuff. And we've done that, but not, sort of not as intentionally. It's just kind of like come out in other places. He's been on my podcast a couple of times. I've been on his a couple of times, and this will be a dedicated, actual project that is neither mine nor his. It's will be the both of ours, and that feels really fun. So I'm sure you'll all know when the first episode hits, and we'd love your support because it's like a whole new crowd, perhaps, which is kind of fun to think about. Pap smears, what a fun topic it is, Hillary. Oh man. Well, I guess I can share just personally where I have come from with that, but I'll have to keep it short because it does require some backstory. So I used to do that, and it was really just because I didn't know any other way, kind of the story of life, right? Especially before birth work, before I had kids. And I had a really traumatic experience with that whole world. So not just the medical world, but pap smears in particular and all of the testing. And this was a while ago. This was like 25 years ago. So yeah, I was a young woman. I was recently married. I knew I wanted to have children one day. And this was, very traumatic. Just all of it, all of the ways we know that Western medicine can just not treat people like treat people like people. But it was a huge wake-up call, and I'm so grateful kind of later in my life that I had that experience, even though it wasn't fun, and it did involve a surgery, a cervical surgery, which is so crazy to say because I've had, 10 children since then. And I mean, I didn't know how it would leave my body. And sad to say, at that young age in my life, I guess I thought they knew better. So I was really blessed that it didn't wind up being a problem for me, but it was a total wild goose chase. And I know it's not necessarily that way for everybody, but I think for me, I learned an important lesson, which is, and I can say this more confidently now because, that was 25 years ago. The lesson is, I feel like I know my body. I'm living in my body. I pay attention to my body, all of the ways that I feel like for me, if something were off or wrong, especially in that area of my body, that I would be the first to know. So I'm not into the testing idea. I just am not into it. And I don't know what good it would really do for me at this point. But people should totally do what they want to do. And I think just with any test, with any of this technology. It's not that it's bad per se. I mean, it might be. There certainly are, negatives to come of it. And then there are certainly women that perhaps had they had a pap smear, would still be here alive, right? So somewhere in the middle is the truth. And I think that's just within each of us. It's certainly not something I'm out there like recommending to people or, talking about. When I was a student, though, when I was an apprentice midwife, this is crazy maybe, but I did work with a more medicalized licensed midwife. And she offered a pap smear to everyone that came in for the initial visit, which, excuse my opinion on this, but I don't necessarily think that that's the greatest idea for someone that's newly pregnant. But this was part of her protocol. This is what she wanted to do. And yes, it was a choice, although many of women, I'm sure, didn't really feel like it was because it was just a very medicalized situation. So I got good practice doing pap smears. I mean, they were kind of fun in a weird sort of way, but I have no desire to put my body through that in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know. I think if people are into offering that kind of care, though, it's cool. And if I were going to do that nowadays, I would totally teach women to do it themselves because it's not that hard. And I remember experimenting with that, again, back when I was a student. I don't know if they still sell these, and there's probably something better, but like inflatable speculums, like there's all kinds of ways that women can do this for themselves and or helping each other. So I feel, can have a friend do it. But all of that stuff can be so removed, I feel like, from our actual bodies and our actual experiences. And, just to say, one of my best friends in my whole life, in this life, died of cervical cancer a couple of years ago. So bless you, Samantha. I love you. And, a pap smear, unfortunately, didn't save her. It didn't cure her. She knew what was going on regardless. And it was very sad. It was very sad to watch. And, it's pretty unusual at the same time. So her journey through that experience was a decade worth of experience. It didn't happen overnight. So again, people should choose what they want, but not out of fear, and watching my friend suffer from that didn't make me want to run and get pap smears. Although I did think again about it for sure. I did think longer and harder about that, but ultimately came back to the same truth, which is not for me, at least not right now, not today. And it may never be. And, with my girls who are older, it's not something I would necessarily recommend to them at this moment. And like I said, if they ended up wanting to do it or whatever, then I think women should be out there doing this for each other. Wouldn't that be so much nicer? I hope they never have to go to, a male gynecologist just because that's the only option. So pap smears, that's a great topic though. It is. It really is. And, women's health in general probably doesn't get talked enough about in our circles of midwifery. I mean, I definitely don't spend a lot of time talking about all of those things, but they are super important. And again, I think the most important and coolest thing is just offering that care compassionately and in a way that leaves women feeling really powerful and in charge of their bodies rather than this thing being done to them. So different. Endometriosis. Yeah, that might be good for next week. I think I would have time for something short-ish if we were going to go a couple more minutes. We have a new course. I could talk about that for the last couple. We have a new course called The Beginner's Guide to Radical Midwifery. And probably anybody here would appreciate this if you don't already have this information. Yeah, like Lauren, you totally do. But it's a great place, I think, to have everything all there together. So, what does the beginning guide to radical midwifery even mean? Well, first of all, it took us quite a while to come up with the name of this course because it felt really comprehensive for a beginning course. And it's also a pay what you will. So it felt really, yeah, comprehensive is the best word. Like there's a lot of stuff in there. And it goes from, history and how licensing got started and the role of midwives, kind of all the way through the present day of the work that we are doing. And in between there is all sorts of things. So more talk about self-responsibility and autonomy. Risk is also a topic that comes up a lot. Let's see, licensing for sure. I mean, there's a very solid section on licensing and regulation, and all of the resources, new and old, that we have on all of these topics. So we realize sometimes that we have so much kind of scattered all over, all over Google, all over our website, and compiling it sometimes for people is really helpful. So this course is for anybody that's ever thought about becoming a radical midwife and either, felt like, oh, I couldn't do that because there's a million reasons why, or being afraid. I don't know. There's a million reasons why most women say, I would love to do that work, and then kind of like follow it up with an excuse. So we were done with excuses. And as the school gets, the Indie Birth Midwifery School gets more popular and we have more people interested in that, we are realizing with every passing day that we need steps before that. So once upon a time, there was just the school, and that's been great. But there's also been people that, weren't quite right because they didn't have kind of the prerequisite information or alignment. Like they weren't actually aligned with what we're doing, which is creating radical midwives, autonomous midwives. We're not creating any old midwife. If you want to be, whatever, some other kind of midwife, like you want to be a CNM, then you should go to nurse midwifery school. So that's really clear. And so I think it's more just us getting more clarity with who we are talking to, who we are wanting to do this work, and then giving them, like, I hope feels like an amazing education, even just to start to say, look, here it all is, all the questions you had about all of it, all the questions you had about persecution, they're all right here. All the questions you had about licensing, all the resources we have, everything we can offer you at this moment is right here in this course. And of course, we'll be adding to it, I'm sure, because we're always making stuff. I think Margot, she even added her YouTube from last night because she kind of went on a rant about regulation. So I was not going to do that again tonight because she did awesome and it's in the course. So I don't know if there's anything extra. I don't know, Lauren, but I would definitely recommend any apprentice or student or activist or anybody that has like 1% interest in this world, this little tiny world that we're in, called radical midwifery. This would be the course for them. And again, it's a pay what you will. So you decide what you can give to that. And we hope you just come out of it feeling like totally kick-ass. Like, yes, I get it. My questions have been answered. My internal quest for knowledge has been answered, and I'm ready to do this. Of course, that's our ultimate hope, is that more people get that far. And again, the school I think is awesome, but we needed some materials to sort of get people to that point. Julie, our wonderful, she's a midwife as well, and kind of our assistant is amazing. And she talks to people all the time. She does phone calls with people that are interested in the school. And so some of it was to take the weight off Julie as well, because she's really dedicated and was having a lot of conversations with people that were asking, sort of basic questions. So now we can just say, please go take this course. It'll take you a month at most. It's a lot of listening and reading and probably reflection. And then you'll know if you want to take the next step forward, or maybe you don't, maybe you just want to go bake cookies And there's nothing like that. I have said that on more than one occasion. My life would maybe be way simpler if I was just going to go bake cookies. So this is not for everybody. And we really wanted to give people an honest look into the topics that we think are important, because the topics that are important to us aren't important to everyone, you know? So it is kind of a unique thing. But yeah, check it out. It's The Beginner's Guide to Radical Midwifery. And it was a newsletter because I can't remember the address off the top of my head, although I could totally find it. Let's see if I can find it. It's probably right here. Yeah, or it's not. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. indybirth.org/radical midwifery. So I'll put it here. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it for today, everybody. Right? Although I suck at baking, Margot's good at it, but I actually suck at it and I don't like it, and I actually don't like cooking at all. So it's really funny that I would say that, but I've always said that. Although I used to say baking cupcakes because cupcakes are way more fun and they used to be more popular. And yeah, if I ever get burnt out in birth work, I might just go bake some cupcakes. I don't know. And it might suck, but I don't know. I would be more relaxed or something. I guess that's what I think. It's not true though. It's not true, because baking cupcakes would be just as stressful, maybe, if you had to bake a million of them. Right? Do you ever watch those cooking shows? I love cooking shows, even though I hate cooking. I hate to cook, but I like watching the shows. And, you know, these dedicated people that like get up every morning to make bread or whatever it is. I don't know. I could not do that. I could not do that either. So I'm way better off attending births, I guess. All right, everybody. We are just at an hour, and I'm going to go and snuggle my baby. I am so glad you joined me here today. I would love to see you back each and every Monday that you're able. And have a great week. Bye.